Welcome to the Standard Deviations podcast, presented by Orion Advisor Solutions and hosted by Dr. Daniel Crosby, Orion's Chief Behavioral Officer and New York Times best-selling author. Each week, Dr. Crosby interviews a fascinating new guest on a range of compelling topics, from literature to psychology to financial wellness. To learn more about Dr. Crosby's behavioral finance work at Orion, visit www.orion.com.
Hello and welcome to the Standard Deviations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Crosby, and today I'm joined by Shawn Sparks from Triad Partners. He is a financial advisor coach who works with elite advisors to create businesses that maximize growth, freedom, and joy. Most importantly, is the author of a wonderful new book, The Advisor Transformation, which is going to be what we're here to talk about today. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so from one author to the other, I ask every author that comes on about this because I have a book out in October, having just recently completed a book, I'm reminded of what a labor of love it is and the financial the financial rewards that you reap from that labor of love are not always commensurate with the work. So I find that authors really have a story to tell, really have a message to get out. What was the message that you had to put into the world?
Yeah, so with the book, I'll tell you, you shouldn't write a book if you don't have a message that you really have complete conviction on. And with me, it's kind of like an eagle in a cage, man. I've got to let people know about this. And this story for me and the process and what I teach in the book is very personal. So I've worked with thousands of advisors throughout my career, Daniel, and what I found is that oftentimes the more successful the advisor becomes, the greater toll that success takes on their personal life. You'll find people who the whole world is applauding. It's like, my goodness, look at all the production you're doing. And then if you go behind the curtain, you realize the business has created an exhaustion, stress. They're oftentimes not able to be present at home. They're realizing that, you know what, like this toll is taking something away from me that I can't get back, which is time with my kids. So you only have to see this so much before you realize something's got to change. And that is what I would say is the normal path of success as an advisor, is that we somehow tie our productivity and our success to the time that we have. And I believe it's completely wrong. And I have seen the exceptions and how to do it the other way, to where the more successful your business becomes, the more freedom you have, the better life you have. And the thing that I'll just say is, if your success does not lead to an enhancement to your overall quality of life, it is not success.
I love that. If your success does not lead to an enhancement of your life in aggregate, right, the whole thing, that's not real success. So that brings us to our second point. So Triad has done a remarkably good job of associating itself with your sort of tagline, your ethos, which is do business, do life. We've got some shirts here. My kids are running around wearing DBDL shirts, right? And you talk about this distinction, this message in your book, and you talk about success and significance and the interplay and the differences between those two things, which I think is right at the core of your DBDL message and your message in this book. Get a little more granular with us there and talk about the success versus significance distinction.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is us. Do business, do life. It is, it's our heart. And I'll tell you what kind of led it to be. So I made a big change in my life just over 3 years ago. And I would say that as I weighed the decision, everything was clear that this is something I needed to do. It was right for me. But I left what I would say is about a 6-week, let's just say, time in of space where I just was really quiet, trying to make sure I was clear on the intention of the next phase. And I left with one question. It was, Shawn, what do you want out of this? Because everything else was about the difference we can make and so on. And I spent a lot of time soul searching, Daniel, and just saying, wait a second, what do I want this change to bring to me? And I said, I want to build a business I never want to retire from. I want to build a business that I never want to leave it. I want to walk into the office with people I love, people I care for, knowing my work is meaningful. I want to wake up 20 years from today and say, why would I ever want this to not be in my life? This is such a blessing to me. And that's where me personally, along with my partner, Brad, we threw away work-life balance, work, there's work here, work friends, here's life. And we said, let's throw it all away and just say, what do we have to do in order to create a business where it's all ingrained as one? It's business and life are one thing that are kind of in harmony or living together, and where there's no trade-offs. And I'll tell you, if you have a business that you enjoy the people, they're true friends, not work friends. If you have a business that you look forward to going to, it's not work. It's a part of your life. And so we said, let's throw away this, let's build it. And we said, do business, do life. Now, there's a lot to that. One of the things I'll just share with you real quick as an example, we only work with people we would have over to have dinner with our kids at our house, whether it's employees, team members, or whether it's the clients for us. I think a lot of times we focus on money and success, and we don't have a strong non-negotiable on who we want to spend our time with. And we want to spend time with people that I'd have over for dinner at my house, regardless of how much production people do, and just say, like, man, we want a closer, more intimate relationship to those we spend our working days with. And that's a whole different way of looking at it versus just how do we make more money. So, but I'll say that's the long-term sustainable way that we have a business and life that we enjoy.
I love this idea of work-life synthesis or the DBDL approach. I think you're seeing this forever. It was work-life balance, right? Like how do I keep, this thing I hate and this thing I love in appropriate balance? And I think you're hearing experts talk more about synthesis. You're seeing the same thing with retirement, right? Where it was like once it was just like slave away for some period of time and then do nothing, right? Like retire to the beach, retire to the golf course. And you're seeing like, no, you need work in your later years. You need more of a synthesis. And it's really, I think, where the world is headed. And you guys are definitely skating to where that puck is going. When I think about Triad, because I have been a fan, I've been friends with Brad for some number of years, and I have watched your growth, and it's really been remarkable. And when I think about what Triad does well, there's a few things that come to mind. First is the branding is incredible. Your marketing, we're going to talk about that. Your marketing and branding is incredible. But I know something you're even more proud of is culture. We're going to get to that in a bit. But you also cast this really compelling vision. And that is something that you're huge on in this trying to create work that is successful in the broadest sense and significant in the broadest sense. Talk to us about the way that you cast that vision, you bring vision into your work so you can build a business you never want to retire from.
Yeah. So the first thing is we've got to remember as people, it's our common behavior that like we want to progress, we want to grow, we want to build. I personally I want to build something amazing. I want to build something that excites me and that's inspiring. The moment you wake up, you go to work, it's just routine. It's just transactional. That is the moment it becomes work. And that's when you're trading off your life for money. And what I'll say is the vision piece for us and for all of those advisors we coach is very much neglected. People are taught that your vision is on a one-page document. Your vision is this. That is not it. Your vision is the way in which you see the future. And I'll tell you, if you want to wake up excited to go to work, you need to have a vision that excites you. What can we become? What can we do? Big thinkers are not attracted to routine businesses. You can look in Silicon Valley, all the startups. As soon as the business gets well established, the best people leave. Because the thing we want in our life is we want something to look forward to. We want to progress. We want to grow. And I'll tell you, just so often people just settle with this is just our job. This is our work. And so we do a lot of deep work, myself, Brad, our team, on all of our whole company. When they look forward the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, we paint a very clear picture on what we're going to do that's exciting to people. And also they'll know all the steps and how we're going to get there. It's very clear And that minimizes a lot of the friction and problems you oftentimes have in business. So vision is everything, with us, but I think that we owe it to ourselves to get around a vision that excites us.
Yeah, longtime listeners to the show will have heard me talk about Martin Seligman's PERMA model before. So this is this sort of 5-part framework for human flourishing. And the A in PERMA is advancement. And we have a very deep-seated impulse as a human family to be better today than we were yesterday. And we want to be growing, we want to be striving, we want to be achieving. And you can have a very high-paid job that gives you very little growth. In fact, I think there's tons of them, right? And people then wonder, why am I not happy, right? And the M in PERMA is for meaning, right? And that's working for something that's bigger than you, being a part of a team, religion, spirituality, philanthropy, charity, whatever that looks like in your life. But are you working as part of a team for something bigger? And in that process, are you getting smarter, faster, stronger every day? If those conditions aren't met, you're never going to be flourishing at the level that you could.
Yeah, there's a good point here too. So I'll say that oftentimes if you ask like an advisor who's really pursuing growth, what their vision is for the future, you oftentimes get production numbers. I want to do this in revenue. I want to do this. This is not even 1% of the story of what a vision is. And sometimes I'll find that the more successful people become, they live in what I would say is a state of reflection. They remember the good old years. They remember when they got in early. They remember when they were building. And what I'll tell you is the moment you switch behavioral wise from excitement, what can I become, to what have I done, is the moment the joy of the business goes away. I've had advisors tell me, oh, I've really got a lifestyle business. And I'm like, no wonder you're having a hard time finding great team members to join you. Nobody wants to join a business that's just established in a lifestyle business. They want to be on a mission of greatness. Great people want to do extraordinary things. And I was fortunate. I went to a training once, and this young kid built this amazing business. And let's just say in like 7 years, it was like nearly $1 billion valuation. All these entrepreneurs were asking these questions. And the one was, how did you attract such amazing people? The kid was young. He was like 27 years old. And he goes, great people want to be a part of an exciting business. And our vision and our excitement that we were able to give them was something they wanted. More than a paycheck, more than benefits, more than everything else. So I would say that this is such a critical piece, is you got to ask yourself as an advisor, what's your vision for the future? And I'll tell you, if it doesn't excite you with clarity, look around you, because nobody else is excited either. A strong vision is contagious. You will not have to go use headhunters to acquire talent. People will flock to your company because of how exciting it is. It'll turn heads and they'll say, I want to be a part of a company like that. And this is what my point is, I think this is very much not taught.
Yeah, I'm writing and reading a lot about meaning and purpose right now. And it's almost supernatural, the power that a why has to get people to perform at an incredible level, to make companies function at a high level, to improve people's health, their sleep, their fitness. I mean, it almost seems like magic when you start reading the research on this why. And so if you're not excited, if the whole purpose of your business is to allow you to be kind of lazy and just kind of live this lifestyle business, how are you going to hire great people? That's not a very compelling vision. So the last piece here, you've worked with thousands of advisors. I think vision can feel a little squishy to people sometimes. Like, you've given some great thoughts here. Among the advisors with whom you've counseled, are there any visions that sort of stand out as ultra compelling, or that really propelled people to great heights, that could make it a little bit more concrete for the listeners?
Yeah, so I'll start by just sharing what I would say what a vision isn't, okay? Because I think this helps a little bit. Your vision needs to be bigger than you. A lot of advisors will take a couple of days off, write down the vision of their business from the standpoint of I. Here's what I want out of my business. You've already eliminated the opportunity to fulfill an amazing business by making it focused on me. Because any real vision is going to require great people. An exciting vision that's going to create a disruption or really just do amazing things is not going to be done by I. So we've already started incorrectly. So I've had an advisor 2 years ago. His whole vision was to bring in over 50 million in new business. And I will tell you, like, a lot of advisors, they're ambitious, they're smart, they're very competitive. Give them a goal and they're going to hit it at all costs. So this advisor ran full steam ahead and said, I am going to fulfill my vision and my goal of being one of the top guys. And he woke up a year later, he hit his goal. And we had dinner one night and he said, Shawn, I would rather never bring on another client and get my life back. It's a slippery slope. The toll gets worse and worse and worse. And then his wife spoke. We had dinner and she said he's going to end up killing himself if he keeps this up. So his vision of productivity and his vision of success, he achieved. And he realized it wasn't worth it. And this is the way inevitably it's going to be if we focus on that type of growth. So that vision was what I would say is incorrect. Fast forward 12 months later, he completely changed his vision after that night. He did the deep work in understanding what kind of a business does he want? What's he want to be known for as a business? What type of culture does he want within his team? How is he going to develop the team? What are the processes we need to build? So he focused on quality and maturity of the business versus productivity. Fast forward 12 months, he went from 24 appointments a week to 4, and he doubled his business. What changed? The direction at which he chose to grow. He chose to do all the little things to make his business better, not just more productive. And this was what I would say is a validation for the work we do and the book that I've written here is sometimes we're just stuck with tunnel vision of a certain way we have to do things. We aren't self-aware of another direction that gives us a better quality of business and life. And if you were to ask that advisor's team, which I think it's 17 people now, every single person would say the relationship they have to their work and their family has to their work is night and day versus what it was when they were hitting all those goals as production. And they're like the culture, the meaning, the heart behind the business. And this would be a good test for you. I'll just mention it real quick, but people talk a lot about culture and we'll talk about that in a minute, but what does your team members' kids say about their relationship to your office? What does your teammate's spouse say about where they work? The true test is not what you hear from your team. It is what is the impact it has on their family. And I literally went around and talked to this office and they're like, this business has been such a blessing to our lives. And you know what? It completely changed from what it was before, but we had to kind of, we had to get the self-awareness and the guidance and hey, there's a different way to grow.
Incredible. I love a little applicable nugget like that. That's the truest measure of how you're doing. Talk to the kids, right? Talk to the partners of the people in your business. Then you'll know how that business is being perceived at home. I just pulled out my my book, The Soul of Wealth, that's out in October. And the very first story, I was thinking of reading it. It's a little too long. The very first story is this myth about a man who gets this sort of magic bowl and his tears turn to pearls. And he's a happy man, right? So at first he doesn't, he doesn't have much wealth. And then he starts looking for ways to cry effectively so he can get this mountain of riches. And this, I won't ruin it, but the story ends, this myth ends with this man, sitting on a mountain of pearls with his whole world broken around him. And I think that's where a lot of us find ourselves, right? We set these goals that ignore the richest parts of our lives. And because so many of the advisors we work with are so driven and so hardworking and so talented, they achieve them at any cost. And then what have you really achieved? You brought up culture. I'm trying not to be such a raving Triad fanboy during this, but it is apparent that I am. You all seem from the outside looking in to have built an incredible culture. And culture is another one of those things that to me is so squishy. Like we all know that it's important. We sometimes, it feels hard to get our arms around some specifics about how to do it. So first of all, is it as good as it seems from the outside looking in? And if it is, what have you done to make it so?
Yeah, so this is another topic that I don't think we put enough emphasis on as entrepreneurs. But day one in our company, we had a vision that was very clear, as we mentioned. And I was like, this vision is not about us. It's going to make a difference, not in other businesses, but other people's lives. There's a heart behind the vision. But our first motto we had day one was, if the culture is right, success is inevitable. If the culture is wrong, we can kiss the dream goodbye. So our first main thing in our business was not how are we going to market ourselves? How are we going to build the business? What kind of service are we going to offer? We knew that to create the business we had was going to require incredible people, and we had to create a culture that incredible people wanted to be a part of. So I would say it was the first and most important thing, not a side project. I think a lot of the industry thinks a ping pong table and a beer keg represents a great culture. That's not culture. Culture is a way we feel. It is a shared common environment that we all hold ourselves to. And it's a way and an attitude we have within our workplace. So with that being said, culture, we go all in on. And I'll tell you this, we do a team intensives, Daniel, and what we do is we do like a 24-hour, we bring an advisor office in for a whole team 24-hour intensive. It's like kind of a boot camp for building to significance. I did one of these last week. We do them all the time. I did one last week. And there was like 12 people in the room, all team members. So it's like operations people, sales, advisors, whatever. And I said, how many of you, by show of hands, want a great place to work that you look forward to coming to every day, to where your coworkers are there for you humbly to help you if you get overworked? When you're having a bad day, they're there checking on you and encouraging you. They have your back. They're not gossiping about you when things are going wrong. How many of you want a place like that to work? Guess how many hands went up?
All of them.
12. And I said, well, if you want that for yourself, will you provide that for your neighbor? When she's having a tough day, will you be there for her? Will you care for her as opposed to gossiping? Will you try to find what you have in common with her as opposed to what you don't have in common and focus on what you have in common instead? Culture is not created by the leader. It's not created by the founder. It's created by the people. Every single person has to choose every single day. They've got to see they are responsible for the culture of this company. And you've got to train them on all of these little things, because I'll tell you, our perception and our experience in our past, we don't have the same, there's a lot of baggage that comes in when a new employee joins you. So you actually have to go through a very specific process to help people understand what a great culture means to us. And then we ask those people to protect that culture at all costs, not just because everybody else wants it, because that's what they want. And it's amazing what happens when you arm your team on those cultural values, how much like every new person you bring on will conform to that culture. The culture won't change every time you bring somebody new on. And I will say it's required to say is that exciting vision is a big part of it. Yeah. You need your team to wake up excited and knowing what role they play and how it impacts the big picture. So there's a lot to culture, but I'm giving you kind of like a little path there.
You've got some great parts in the book where you get really granular and really practical. And one of the sections that I really enjoyed was the part on hiring for culture. And you have this these two axes, culture fit and skill fit. and you hire along these two axes, and you have sort of 4 quadrants that result from these, and you've got your 4 R's. So you can take this where you want to take it. But, this is work that I used to do. My first job out of, upon completing my doctoral degree was I worked for a leadership development company, and I did a lot of pre-employment assessments. And we would do, culture fit. We would do, are they smart enough? We would do IQ testing, personality testing, culture fit type stuff. It's so much easier to hire for culture than it is to try and, twist someone's arm into being a part of a culture where they're not a great fit. You're a young organization. You're a quickly growing, but relatively, only a couple years old. How are you hiring for culture, and how do you discern that when people have sort of a vested interest in putting a best foot forward or leading with what might be sort of a well-meaning falsehood in a job interview like that?
Yeah. So when people join our company, this is important. We don't really hire very much from like an Indeed ad, a headhunter. Like, we identify what is the role we need, and then we say, who is the best in the world to fill it? This is our test on hiring. Now, when we identify who these people are, here's the cool thing. We're to the point now, we get a lot of referrals from current people. And we got a whole file cabinet filled with people who want to be a part of the company, but that's been built over time. Day one, we were only a handful of people. So what we did was we believe there are 2 things required to be an A+ person. We said our business is going to be built off working with A+ people. We considered, back then we said, we're not the Navy, we're the Navy SEALs, the best in the world. We didn't want to bring brand new people in and then try to make them good. We wanted people who were already the best in the world so that we could immediately get an uptick in the value we can bring to our members. So with that being said, when we do identify who is best, 2 or 3 people, we have a very careful interview process that's the opposite of an interview that a corporation would have. There's no list of questions you ask them. When's the last time you read a book? What was it? Throw all of that away. We get to know them almost like one of your advisors on this audience would get to know a client, a potential prospect. We discover who they are. We ask them questions about, themselves and what brings them excitement. And then, by the way, if we find that culturally and the skill set is aligned, we sell them on the vision of our company and the meaning behind it. And I'll tell you, after like 2, 3, 4, what I would say is interviews, we do not hire people that are trying to decide whether or not they should join us. We're asking us about the benefits. We hire people who look at us and say, heck yeah, I want to be a part of this. We do not bring on neutral people. They're coming in with a tailwind behind them with complete excitement and saying, I want to be a part of this mission. And I'll tell you, most people don't interview at all like that. It's like, oh, I really want to fill this role. No, the role doesn't matter. And we've had people say, I'm not sure, we're going to decide. And we're like, well, it's not a good fit. Because when people join our company, we want enthusiasm, excitement, inspiration. And if they did not latch on to our vision through the process and see the meaning behind it, then we now have a culture of neutral, unexcited people. So we want people to buy into our vision day one. And what our team said, we just had one just join us just last week. Like, heck yeah, let's do this. You see the difference in bringing an asset into your company and a teammate with excitement and energy. That's what we manufacture through our process. Now, skill set and culture. I would say culture is probably as important. And we're looking at values, we're understanding them, getting to know them. And honestly, I want my team to say, I like that person. I want to hang out with that person. I can see myself doing business in life with that person. And so it's just something we're really careful about.
A couple of the questions I love the most from those early days of doing this. I would ask people, how would your best friend describe you? I really enjoyed that question because, first of all, it gets to first of all, you just get some meat and potatoes insights into who they are as a person. But the second thing is it gives an insight into their level of psychological mindedness. Like some people would say, how would your best friend describe you? And they'd go, oh, well, I'm 6 feet tall and I have brown hair or whatever. And you're like, this is garbage. This is terrible. They don't have a whole lot of depth or insight into sort of the psychology. So I found that to be a really interesting question. And I just love that. It was such meaningful work. And when you do the work of putting the culture first and hiring for culture instead of splitting hairs over how many days of PTO or whatever, I think you get a much higher caliber candidate. And I love that it's a heck yes or it's a heck no, to come work here.
Yeah. And then I'll say, just when we bring on a new team member, I want my whole team to see that our army just got stronger. Yeah. We just got better. And when people walk around, like our team, you feel the culture. Yeah. Thanks for being a part of this. Because our goal is not to like protect our role. I want to do this, I want to do that. Our goal is to fulfill a mission that we are all aligned on. And so sometimes with change in a business, which is in the book, sometimes change is met with friction. How does this affect me? What's this mean? And a lot of times it comes to lack of communication or a lack of alignment in what we're really after. And when you talk about changing roles based on the needs of the business changing, this is really important. But if they're attached to a common mission that's much bigger than today or the next 6 months, the short swings that happen, all the friction is so much easier to get through. All these issues pretty much go away. So that's important to mention. And then you asked about the radical team development, which is in the book. So I'll give you all just a little tip, something we learned. So we believe in first principles thinking, which what that means is basically don't do what everybody else does just because they do it. Start from scratch and say, what do we want to do? What's the right way to do things? Because I think a lot of times people optimize behaviors that they shouldn't be doing. It's like, why are we trying to get better at something that's wrong to begin with? So what we learned pretty early is we always ask based on first principles, what's the appropriate way to do this? And that's where you get a lot of fresh new ideas. A lot of companies in corporate America do reviews with their staff. And we started questioning that because we started doing it too. And it's like, okay, so throughout the 6 months, I'm going to take a note of all the things that I want to talk to them about in 6 months, all the changes they need to make, all the issues. And I'm like, nobody likes a review meeting. I don't like doing it. They don't like doing it. So we're like, why would we do this? This doesn't make any sense. So we switched it. We do development meetings with our team. We do not do review meetings. And our development meetings are 100% aligned with how can I help them develop? How can I help them become the best business professional they can possibly be? What can I do to remove obstacles out of their way? Oh, by the way, there may be some areas we need to address together. But we use a radical team development, which helps us and them identify areas that they want to improve, things they want to improve on. And this has been amazing for us because now we look forward to these meetings. And they look forward to them. They're like, here's something I want to get better at. And I'm like, awesome. And then we get better at it. And ultimately, here's the key. The better business people your company has, the better business you will have. So often the business development is withheld from the team. And it's just the founder who's going to the conference trying to get better. And we wonder why there's a disconnect between their team and the founder. It's like, I view it as, I want everybody in our company to be a better business person because of their relationship to our company. So we are radically transparent in business development, how we're going to grow, what's going to have to change over time in order to scale.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of these, I think so many of these things in business we just take for granted because that's the way that it's always been done. But leaders and subordinates alike hate review meetings. Like we hate doing it. It feels gotcha, right? Like, okay, well, here's a year's worth of grievances, like buckle up and it's going to be tied to your bonus or whatever. And, one of the best pieces of feedback I got about giving feedback early on was that you want to make the other person look good, right? So you want this to be about their growth, their betterment, their improvement. And that's what I'm hearing from you is you're all along that path. You're trying to help them up their game and make them look good, not saving a list of grievances for, December 22nd where they get hit with all that.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah. Open feedback. The My business coach, Michael Hyatt, taught me the quickest way to get from where you are to where you want to be is the truth.
I love that.
So very few people like feedback. Let's be the exception together. And I am open to any and all feedback within my team, coaches. The hardest feedback to give is probably the most important feedback for me to receive. And I think we've been very sensitive to this. And we need to throw that away and say, wait a second. What if there's some truth to this? Maybe this is a blind spot that I'm not seeing. And so I would say trying to move down the path to where open feedback is not something we repel or we push away, but instead is something we embrace and eagerly ask for. That will change the dynamic immediately, assuming the people want to improve and grow. If we have that commonality that we want to grow, we want to get better, we want to improve, we want to progress, then we've got to adopt the mindset, even if it's uncomfortable at first, to say, let's have open feedback. Now, I had a team member join, and on her second day, she gave me feedback. And I go, thank you. And then she's like, because I was a part of our process. We believe in open feedback. Don't hold back. And you would think that she'd be nervous or something. And she was like, this way, you said this one thing. And I'm just like, thank you so much. And I don't always agree with the feedback, but I always take it to heart. Yeah. And the key for me is, what if they're right? That's amazing how just the awareness allows me to improve over time. So I think in order to grow to our best self, we need to be very open to feedback. And we want a culture to where it's openly shared.
There's a couple of, I think, golden nuggets in there that I want to revisit. So the first one, the Michael Hyatt quote, the quickest way to get from where you are to where you want to be is the truth, or something like, yeah, did I get that right?
Yes. Yep.
And then I loved your piece too about the harder the feedback, sort of the more important it is, right? That's actually a good sort of signal to us that if we have a piece of feedback that is either hard to receive or hard to give, that's almost like an indicator that it's critical and not the opposite, which I think is how we treat it sometimes. Like, oh, well, this is hard to say, so we're gonna shove that deep under the rug. That's your cue to give that feedback.
Yeah, and I'll say that feedback is not a complaint. It's not an attack. I'll give you this, just one little addition here, and again, it's in the book, but feedback framed correctly is always welcomed.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the problem is that we are quick, we're running out of time, we're too direct. Anytime think about like a sibling or a kid that, when my kids, I'm like, I'm not approaching them quickly and saying, you need to stop doing this. I'm framing it very carefully to let them know that I care for them and I want to help them. And there's an opportunity that may or may not be right, but I want to share it with them so it can further their path of progression. And I think sometimes that the feedback it's delivered incorrectly, therefore it's received wrong. But feedback is always welcome if it's framed correctly, and take the time to really help and nurture that relationship so it's an improvement to them as opposed to a problem for them.
Yeah. So I want to tell a story. This happened to me this week, and I think you're the right man to help me here. So I don't know what was in the water at church this week, but like I went to church this week and had 3 different people approach me for a referral to an advisor locally here in Atlanta. I mean, it happens to me periodically. I've never had 3 people in one Sunday approach me. So this week I found myself, with 3 trusted families that I care for a great deal, looking to refer them to advisors. Now, I mean, the good news is I, like you, work with thousands of advisors, know lots of great ones in the area. And so I was able to give them, a list of 3 or 4 folks who I really trust. I know, I don't want to put my thumb on it. So I say, hey, here's 3 people for you to interview, do the vibe check, see who you get along with. Here's some questions to ask, some things to look for. Godspeed. Let me know if you have any questions. So one woman came back to me and said, hey, help me understand what's the difference between these 3 in terms of how they kind of go to market and how they present themselves. And I had to kind of say, I don't know. And you have this stat in the book. You say, my favorite stat in the book, it's in section 3. You say that 70% of advisors suggest that what sets them apart is their services. And you talk about decommoditizing our businesses. And so if these people are listening to this podcast, I love you, right? Like, I mean, I'm referring people to you. I trust you. I know you do a good job. But between these 3 people, besides their uprightness and their honesty and their general competence, I couldn't much say from one business to the next what made them special. And that seems like a problem to me. So how do we decommoditize our advisory businesses?
Yeah, so most advisors, when they get in the business, this is kind of the progression they go down. First, it's important that like 70% of advisors fail within the first year. Other statistics show 90%. So what I would say is that for an advisor to succeed, they've got to be knowledgeable, they've got to be confident, they've got to be good at what they do. And the people who are listening to this are already an anomaly, if we think about it. It's a very failure-prone business. So when an advisor gets in the business, what they end up doing is they realize that they can help people, and they tend to help them with products, and investments, insurance, whatever. And this is where they're able to fill the need of that client with something they offer, such as investments, portfolios, and so on. Once they get that down and they're like, you know what, I'm helping people, this is working, there's a fit for what I do. The next tier of growth is, let's create the best service we possibly can. Instead of a client calling in, there's a right way and wrong way to do this, but years ago, I had a guy give his cell phone out. I'm the best service because I'm your guy, and here's the cell phone. I'm going to call you within 24 hours. Now, don't do that for those that are listening. That's a bad recipe. But they focus on how we can provide a better service, get back quicker, provide a team that can really serve them, and so on. The next tier of progression tends to be their goal is to create experiences. And I'll tell you, an advisor who's really good at what they do, but then they also do a great job with service, they're like, we're going to do a Christmas party too. We're going to do some lunch and learns. And our clients, we're going to out-experience the competition. The thing is, all of that is a progression and it's better for the client. But at the end of the day, what we feel and what I wrote about in the book is the biggest gap actually is the value we provide the clients from a planning aspect. So many advisors, they focus on investments. The number one concern of like a retired person's, am I going to have enough money? What about the income plan? How's Social Security fit in? What about inflation? And if the number one concern of a retiree is, am I going to run out of money? Shouldn't we address that as opposed to just having it being kind of a sidebar from the investment portfolio? Then we've got tax planning. And we've got people who are like, man, my investments are doing great. I've got the income plan, but what about taxes? How is this portfolio going to be done in a way that I can optimize for taxes? Oftentimes that's ignored from a lot of the investment community. Then you've got, there's different studies, but on a healthcare scenario, I saw a study like the average retired couple is going to have like $460,000 in unexpected healthcare costs. You do a great job with their investments, but what happens if that comes? We got a $500,000 clip. What if it's like my grandma who got Alzheimer's, where it was not an average stay and it was increased costs? So here's my point. The more value you create for your clients, first principles thinking, imagine addressing all of this, not just the investment guy. You're already branding yourself, marketing yourself as unique. We believe the key is to be a transformational planner. It is not to just win on service, not to win on experience, not to win on the best products and access to the best stuff, but it is actually to be the transformational planner where you actually transform that client to know that everything's covered. We've got it all accounted for. And I'll say the best offices that I work with, I've got an office with they do over $1 billion, and they have $1 billion plus in AUM, $300 million per year. The best offices long-term are the ones that deliver the most value to the client. And the more value you get, you deliver, Now we have to learn how to message that. And I'll say that your company, it's got to be a part of the DNA. What is our brand? What are we known for? How are we demonstrating this value? What's this really mean? That messaging, we have to dial in very carefully, because what's really cool, very carefully pieced together message to your clients and prospective clients will be echoed. I have advisors who literally, when a new client comes in as a referral, they say, we came here for this reason. And it is the words of the brand that they're coming to. So what we want to do is we want to take ourselves out of the box of being a financial advisor, and we want to be known for much more, one layer outside. And then we want to message that in everything we do. And in the book, we talked about marketing tactics for strategy. You should not just be doing a seminar or doing a mailer or doing this because that's what's going to fill the seats. That's what's going to get people to come in. You have to ask yourself, what is our brand? What do we want to be known for? And then how do we piece that into all of our marketing? And what you have is a brand lift. In everything you do, you're getting the results you want, but you're also enhancing the message, and you're becoming well known and known for something different than all the competitors.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think with my friends who I just gave these referrals to, I imagine that they're doing a lot that is decommoditized, but somehow that hasn't gotten to me, right? Like I don't, one piece of it is doing it, and then another piece of it is communicating it, and you can't have the one without the other. But I love that.
Yeah. So we've got to be clear in who we are. What is our brand? How's it known for? We need a consistent and congruent brand. A lot of times you have a great advisor who's really good with words, but the marketing on the front end isn't a match, which actually kills conversion, confuses people. So what we want to do is we want to make a congruent and consistent brand, and we want to be very careful on dialing that in with the proper words and messaging. And that's where your brand becomes, it's like wildfire. And now here's the thing, is this is hard work. It's a deep process. Like, to be very unique in every deliverable you have, everything you do, it's a match to who you are authentically. And then you stand out from everybody else, because nobody's going to become you. It's how do we package that?
Yeah. When you talk about a transformational planner, what I'm hearing is a planner who understands clients' behavioral needs and understands their worries, and is able to address those in a very holistic way. That's, the psychologist in me is hearing that. So Shawn, we're almost out of time, but I got to get to one or two more things before we do. I did a sneaky thing. I talked to Brad Johnson yesterday. This is our mutual friend, your business partner and our mutual friend. And I said, look, I've read Shawn's book. I know all the sort of technical questions to ask him, but you got to give me some dirt on the guy. You got to give me something about him, and let me ask him that. So he told me that you and your family every Halloween dress up in a coordinated costume. And I want to know, we're going to do a little life now. We've done some business. Now let's do some life. What is your favorite Halloween costume as a family of all time? What's your favorite one that y'all have done?
Well, so the truth is, my wife loves Halloween. So this is not a choice, but I will tell you, it's been really fun, and our kids love it. They look forward to it. Leading up, the anticipation of Halloween is as much fun as anything, because they're like trying to decide who we're all going to be. We did the Addams Family, which was really fun. Yep. And then we did the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, nice. Who were you in the Wizard of Oz?
The Tin Man.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture. But I'm just being an obedient husband and father. So they all decide, and then I'm all in, and I just say yes. And it's a blast. Marriage
advice. Shawn's got marriage advice too. I like it. That's good. I want to give people the chance. I want to tell them again where they can get the book. Tell us again the name of the book, where they can get the book. And you also, I believe, are offering a couple of free chapters of the book for people who want to try before they buy.
Yeah. So The Advisor Transformation is the book. You can go to theadvisortransformation.com. And if prior to release, we're releasing it March 22nd. You'll get on the wait list. The moment it's released, we'll notify you. between now and then, you'll have the first 3 chapters. And then anybody on that list will also get the audiobook for free. So bottom line is, I want to get this message out there. This is not a financial thing, as you know, Daniel. I believe this message deserves to be shared. And I want people to build a business and a life that they love. So join the wait list. We're going to cut the price way down the first couple of days just so everybody can get their hands on it. The Kindle version, like 99 cents or something. You'll get the audiobook for free. And today, instantly, you'll get the first 3 chapters. So theadvisortransformation.com.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I didn't get to a bunch of my questions around sales and marketing, so you got to come back and hit us with that, or they can read the book and get it there. Shawn, thank you for your time. You've been awesome.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in to Standard Deviations. If you can't wait till next week for more behavioral finance insights, visit www.orion.com. All opinions expressed by Dr. Daniel Crosby and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of or endorsement by Orion and its affiliates, subsidiaries, and employees. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for legal, tax, and investment decisions. The opinions are based upon information the participants consider reliable.